Hello and welcome to this week's episode of the Edges and Sledges Cricket Podcast. I'm your host Ashwin. I'm joined by DJ. It's a little bit of a somber episode for us, but for the rest of most of our listeners, it's worth excitingly announcing and sharing that we are into the playoff stages of the Indian Premier League 2022. DJ, you got to watch some of the matches, but Gujarat Titans, Rajasthan Royals, Lucknow Super Giants, and RCB are the four qualifiers. How are you feeling this week?
Lots of mixed emotions. Obviously, the Delhi Capitals crashed out in spectacular fashion with the Rishabh Pant non-review and drop catch on Saturdays. That was pretty disappointing. I went and watched a couple of the games last week. I was at the ground at the Brabon for Rajasthan versus Punjab, and I was also at Wankhede for Mumbai versus SRH. Which, I mean, honestly, watching a Mumbai game in Mumbai is a pretty spectacular um, experience, particularly when Tim David went completely ballistic and then had a kamikaze run out. But what I'm most pleased about is out of the three of us, in terms of predictions for the playoffs, guess who got the most number of teams right?
So I don't have them in front of me right now, which I should have pulled up before we started. But who were your four predictions?
So I had gone with the Rajasthan Royals, who made it. I had gone with the Lucknow Super Giants, which no one else had gone with. And I had gone with Mumbai, and I think I can't remember the fourth team I'd gone. I'd gone with KKR. That was the fourth team I'd gone with.
Yeah, very impressive.
So yeah,
Didn't you say Venki Iyer would have the orange cap?
yeah, and you said Shreyas would. So well, I guess we're
I was
not.
I was closer than you were. Let's be clear.
Yeah, but we're still 0 for 0 there. That's like I got run out by 1 yard and you got run out by 5.
Man,
So
that's crazy. I'm trying to look up the predictions really quick, but for some reason,
yeah, that I think
there
Varun
it is. You
predicted
said
Chennai.
Lucknow, Rajasthan, and then you said Mumbai and KKR. So you had
Yeah.
the second and third team, and then the seventh and last place. Varun said CSK, Delhi, Punjab, and Rajasthan. So he had one team. And then I said Mumbai, Delhi, KKR, and Rajasthan. So I think I may have been the worst. But Varun said Prithvi Shaw. I said, let's just go through this really quickly because we're doing it now. But for orange cap, excuse me, Varun said Prithvi Shaw, who is not anywhere in the top 15. You said Venkatesh Iyer, who's not in the top 15. And I said Shreyas Iyer, who is 14th. So I think I win that one, but not by a lot.
Yeah.
And then
Scraping the bottom there, buddy.
Scraping the bottom indeed. For wickets, you said Trent Bolt, who definitely didn't feature. Varun said Harshal Patel, who's seventh on the list, and I said Rashid Khan, who is sixth on the list. So
Not
it's
bad.
continuing to scrape the bottom a little, but at least I got a little bit of those. But
Not bad.
not what we are here to talk about.
No.
Great experience for you, DJ, to spend some time at the IPL. I know there's been a lot going on, so we'll probably try to do a bit of a quick run through the week. The last time Varun and I were here, gosh, it's hard to relive now that you know what the qualification scenarios are, but this is what we're here for. And Delhi needed to beat Punjab to make it to have any chance of staying alive. And it was an interesting match, right? Your boy Shardul Thakur showed up pretty strongly, but Delhi batted first, made 159. Just walk me through it really quickly. When Delhi has to beat Punjab, and on the first ball of the match, they give the ball to Liam Livingstone, and David Warner, who's been Delhi's best batsman all season, gets out. I mean, quite an unbelievable recovery to get 150, made 63. Lalit Yadav surfed him pretty well. Nice to see Sarfaraz get an opportunity. And then really it was a game for the bowlers, right? Where none of the Punjab players got off to a good enough start because Shardul picked up 4 for 36. Akshar had 2 for 14 in just 2 for 14 in his 4 overs. Kuldeep also 2 for 14 in 3 overs. Like the Delhi bowlers showed up that day, right?
Well, they showed up, and you talked briefly about David Warner, and it's those small moments in the game which stick in your mind. And Warner had walked out, and then he saw Liam Livingstone was coming on to bowl, and then he actually swapped to take strike first ball. And as it turned out, he spooned a catch to point, and you're just like that. That's the end of the game, and he's your best batsman all season, and he's gone. Batting wise, I think Mitch Marsh was pretty spectacular. It's that Australian all-round obsession, of course, that our coach Ricky Ponting has at Delhi. And for once, the guy delivered. He got 63, some big hits towards the end. But it's a tough track. And I mean, the Delhi bowlers, that looked like a pretty strong bowling lineup, actually. You look at Khalil, Nokia, Yadav, Thakur, Akshar Patel, and Yadav again. I mean, Kuldeep didn't even bowl his entire spell. Like, he bowled 3 overs. So, I mean, a pretty good performance to defend 159 for 7, which ironically turned out to be the same score that they should have defended against Mumbai, but we will talk about that later. Yeah, man, it's hard talking about this now, knowing what's happened. But again, I was the only guy who said that Delhi wouldn't qualify this season. So
What's crazy is we were sitting here last Sunday afternoon when you were at the stadium. Varun and I were talking, and there's a clip that I want to cut for future's sake. And Varun said, "We know what's going to happen. Delhi's going to beat Punjab, stay in the hunt, and then they're going to meet Mumbai in their last game of the season, lose to Mumbai, and get knocked out." And exactly that happened because it's the most typical Delhi Capital things to do is
yeah,
to this game against Punjab, by the way, was the first time all season they had won 2 games on a trot. Meaning
is that
every
right?
time they won, they lost the next game. So it was win, loss, win, loss, win, loss. The first time they won 2 in the trot was against Punjab. And then, of course, needed to win against Mumbai and couldn't make it 3 on the trot. But we're not, as much as we try,
We
we're
can't
not a
help
Delhi
it. We
Capitals
can't help it.
podcast.
We can't help it.
So good win for Delhi, kept the league stages alive.
Yeah.
For Delhi at least, I think, and for RCB kept it exciting. I think at that point, mathematically, Punjab was knocked out, and Hyderabad technically had a chance, but would have been very difficult. And so, as Hyderabad moved to the Wankhede, you were at this game live. Talk us through it a little bit, right? 193 for Hyderabad. Um, Priyam Garg made 42, came back into the side. Again, didn't really play all season despite he had a 50-50 season last year. Um, Rahul Tripathi, 76.
Tripathi.
Tripathi came to
Tripathi.
the party, made
And that
76.
shot against Bumrah that he hit, there was one swivel pull shot, and I mean, Bumrah on the ground. And I was sitting kind of square of the wicket, and it looks really quick, but like Tripathi just swiveled and hit him behind square for 6. And that is, I don't know what the commentators were saying on screen, but that was special. Bloody
It
hell,
was
that was a great
unbelievable.
shot. Yeah.
And then in chase of 193, Rohit got 48, Ishan Kishan got 43. Tim David, who, gosh, now you sit here and say, did Mumbai miss a trick by not playing him earlier in the season because of how he finished? But 46 of 18 and then a crazy run out. And Mumbai got to within 3 runs, but just fell short. Umran Malik, who, by the way, has now been called up for the India versus South Africa T20s that are next month. So congratulations to him. That is a big moment. But Umran picks up another 3 for, and Mumbai falls 3 runs short. So SRH get another win, but the latter half of the season let them down, and so they were basically out of the tournament.
Yeah, and Mumbai, when you look down that lineup, when I was sitting in the ground, I was just like, who's Stubbs? Who's this guy walking in? Who's Ramandeep? What does this guy do? And you're just like, this is a team that's in complete transition. And other than the Tim David assault, which ended in a completely kamikaze run out when they needed 19 of 13, and they lost the game from there after taking Natarajan apart. I mean, Mumbai didn't look like the Mumbai of old. Pollard wasn't playing. It was quite a weird game to watch in a way. Plus, Umran Malik, you mentioned him briefly. Again, I said Bumrah is fast, but that guy, again, he is
What was it
he's
like to
l-
watch him live?
it's pretty special. Also,
Nice.
he went for a lot of runs in the first over. He went for a few. I think he bowled a no ball the first ball, and then there was a free hit and went for a few. So if you look at his analysis, I think I can't remember what his exact figures were. I'm sure I can look them up. But the first over went for about 15 or 16 runs, and then he took 3 wickets in the next 3 overs for very little, maybe 10 or 14. So I don't know what his overall
He
analysis
was
was.
3 for 23 at the end
Yeah,
of his
yeah,
spell.
and he went for a lot of runs in that first over. I'm not sure
Pretty
Crick Info
incredible.
will tell you that, but it was, yeah, he's one of those guys. Once he gets it right, it's really hard to get him away, and we saw that again today, right? Like, he started going for runs, and then again he just pulled it back, and he's brilliant.
Yeah, it looks like he went for 14 in the first over.
Yeah,
So it
yeah.
took me some hunting to find. But yeah,
How,
great
yeah,
to see. I mean, 3 for
stat man.
23 is phenomenal.
Yeah.
Right. From there, we went to KKR versus Lucknow. Lucknow, mathematically, were almost there. There was a chance they couldn't make it. KKR technically could make it, and the KKR needed to win and win pretty big to have any reasonable shot. But Lucknow wanted to try to cement their qualification and try to sneak into the top 2, which again, now we know they didn't. But gosh, Varun again and I were talking, and what we said last week, I think, is, or a couple of weeks ago, is Lucknow is a great team. I mean, they've qualified, so full credit to them, but seem very, very reliant on the top 2. especially since Huda started strong, then softened out a little bit. Then they've got Lewis, Fora, Stoinis, Holder, none of who has really had a breakthrough season with the bat. But your middle order doesn't matter if they don't need to walk out to the middle, right? This was the biggest opening partnership of the season, maybe in a long time, maybe ever. I haven't looked at the numbers, but 210 0 in 20 overs. They just went ballistic. And of course, Quinton de Kock was my captain. So I think it's the only reason fantasy
Oh,
hasn't been
wow.
complete shambles for me.
Nice.
But it felt like, so here's what happened in this game. They were both batting pretty well, but it felt like they were around 60, each about 55, 60 off between 38 and 45 balls. And then I went to do something. It was a weekday for me. I went into a meeting, I think. And then I checked the score 30 minutes later, and Quinton de Kock is 140 off 70 balls. He's at 10 sixes. So whatever happened, he went absolutely ballistic in the back end of that innings and got them to 210. Interestingly, in the chase, KKR came out swinging, and full credit to captain Shreyas Iyer, where he said, he lost his openers quickly. They brought in a new guy named Abhijit Tomar for the opening position. Venkatesh Iyer failed. Tomar failed. Nitish Rana looked good. And interesting, by the way, earlier today, there was a Nitish Rana tweet I have to ask you about. Then Shreyas Iyer made a 50. Billings looked good. Rinku Singh. My gosh. DJ, do you remember the end of that? Do you want to talk through the Rinku Singh heroics?
It was pretty good, man. 40 of 15 along with Narayan. Good old Sunil Narayan, 21 of 7, and agonizing, right? Agonizing to fall short for them by just 2 runs. And Stoinis again. He's got a thing for last ball, last over heroics. He did it for Delhi a few seasons ago, taking us into a tight game where there was no hope. And he takes 2 wickets off the last 2 balls to finish off the game, it was surreal. But I mean, you know what? Like this was a weird game that just like seesawed from Lucknow having
Mm-hmm.
all the trumps, and like and suddenly KKR they've lost their openers, but then they've come back. It just kept seesawing between the two teams, and I mean, Varun's not on this podcast, but I'm sure he was having lots of fun with his KKR fan friends who their we should probably disclose their famous line is like, it makes you wonder what's going on behind the
Behind
scenes.
the scenes, always.
Behind the scenes. Well, what a line that was. But I mean, there was nothing going on behind the scenes. It was just a weird match with two teams trying hard to lose, I guess.
But unbelievable seesaw cricket. Like, this was
Yeah.
probably the most exciting finish of the IPL,
Yeah.
right? A team makes 210, and I think they were about 150 for 6. So when Russell gets out, they need 61 runs in 20 balls. You think it's basically done. And then Rinku Singh makes 40 of 15. Sunil Narayan makes 21 of 7. By the end, it looks like it's absolutely within reach. And then just 2 wickets in the last 2 balls, and KKR falls short, agonizingly short of a potential qualification into the top 4 by just 2 runs.
Yeah.
So
Makes you wonder
absolutely
what's going
unbelievable.
on behind the scenes.
All right, fair enough. I do want to ask you about what's going on behind the scenes. It doesn't sound
So,
like you've seen
so
it, but
what is this?
six
What is this
hours
tweet?
ago, yeah, six
Okay.
hours ago at Nitish Rana underscore 27, shortly after the announcement of the India versus South Africa T20 squad, or the squads, Nitish Rana tweets, "Things will change soon," with an India flag and the BCCI logo, the circle. Things will change soon. And lots of interesting comments. People being like, listen, bro, you scored the 20th most runs this year's IPL. You weren't like top 5 run scorers. You weren't breaking down the doors. Your highest score was 57. You averaged 27 at a strike rate of 143. I mean, yes, you can argue that Virats of the world didn't have a great season either, but they've accomplished a lot more over their careers. Like was Nitish Rana really expecting a call up for the India T20 side based on this season or based on the last couple of seasons?
No, I don't think so. I mean, I think he's probably just expressing his disappointment, saying that maybe he'll score runs and like break the door down. I don't know. There've been some weird tweets over. I don't know whether you guys talked about the Raidu retirement tweet.
No, what was that one?
So Raidu tweeted out that he's retiring from IPL and then deleted that tweet.
Really?
Then don't you know this?
No, I missed all this, I guess.
That's insane. So like he
Wow.
tweeted this out, and like I think there's screenshots and stuff of it. Obviously, like everything
Yeah,
on the
of
Twitter
course.
space. But Raidu's had this weird like retired, non-retired. He retired from Ranji Trophy cricket as well, then reversed his retirement. He's a little bit and I hate to say this because maybe he'll come on the podcast one day, so I'm not going to call him the Indian Shahid Afridi, but there are some there have been some interesting tweets from him. Plus, he obviously had the famous 3D glasses tweet, so
Hmm.
maybe he's like the Indian Jimmy Neesham. Speaking
Maybe
of which,
his
did you see the Rajasthan Royals video
the Hera
with?
Fairy video.
It's too good.
It was so strange, man. It was.
It's too
We got a couple
good.
of people tweeting at us because they wanted the three of us to do the three guys because it's three guys doing
Yeah, but Trent
dumb
Bolt
stuff. But
is too good,
it's
man.
unbelievable.
And Jimmy
Unbelievable.
Neesham's shoulders are like all over the place.
So
Insane.
Rajasthan Royals' social media game has been on point, but they have also finished second in this year's league
That
table. So
helps,
a
right?
lot of people give them a hard time for having a social media game that's on point while they're not putting results up. But gosh, even with Joss Butler falling out of form, they've still put up the victories.
Yeah, and guess there was a question as to whether we're qualified to do this podcast a few episodes ago. The one team all three of us said would qualify
Is Rajasthan.
is the Rajasthan
So
Royals.
25% success rate, but we're still going to celebrate it. We'll do
Yeah,
it.
but I mean, each of us, every one of us said
And we
there
all
was
had
no.
doubters. We all had
Yeah,
people doubt that. Yeah.
yeah. Now, why do you love Rajasthan and stuff? And
What is
it was clear.
interesting is I would love to see the odds on anybody who predicted no Mumbai, no Chennai, no KKR. Like like who basically predicted this? Did anybody predict this top four?
Yeah, makes you wonder what's going on behind the scenes.
How many times are you going to say that episode?
I wish
But
Varun was
honestly,
on this one.
if somebody
He
did
would have had a ball.
if somebody did predict this top four, and like has some sort of Facebook or Twitter or social media proof of it, send it our way. I'd be very, very impressed.
Absolutely,
Right, DJ,
absolutely.
one more match before we take a break. And in a week that was very heartbreaking for Delhi fans, there's finally a game that made the heart a little bit happy for India fans. And that is Gujarat Titans playing the Royal Challengers Bangalore. So Gujarat didn't have a lot to lose, right? They had basically consolidated their spot in the top two. They'd already won 14. They had already won 10 of the 14, or 10 of the 13 at the time. So already at 20 points. They couldn't be ousted from the top two. And they came out to bat first. Ridhiman Saha looked pretty good. Hardik Pandya has become Rahul or Kohli or whatever, batting at 3 or 4 and consolidating, made 62 of 47 not out. They got to 168, which is respectable, not great. I mean, shout out to Hasaranga and shout out to Maxwell, who picked up a wicket early on of Matthew Wade, but 168. And then Virat and Faf walked out. So, of course, lots of changes on and off to the opening combinations for RCB this year. Virat and Faf walked out, made 115 on opening partnership. Virat makes 73 of 54 before getting stumped to an absolute peach from Rashid. And Glenn Maxwell comes and hits 40 of just 18, just smashes the ball and finishes it off with more than a full over to spare. I mean, say what you want about the IPL and Virat and Rohit and the battles and this, that, but this did two things. It kept RCB's hopes alive. So in a horrendous season for Virat, when it mattered, when RCB had a must win, RCB had two things they needed to do. They needed to win the match and they needed Delhi to lose, which have obviously both happened. But when it mattered, cometh the hour, cometh the man, and all that, right? He stepped up, made 73, and kept RCB alive. And how good is this for India going into the lead up to the World Cup season?
It's good. I don't know whether it still cements a spot. I think there's a debate around that because there's plenty of players who can do that job right now. You've got Ruturaj, Rahul, others, but I'm glad he's back in the runs, right? Like it's nice to see King scoring runs and just being king. And I mean, the celebrations, I'm sure we'll talk about later. But he's just glad to be in those top four. And I mean, Maxi, that 40 of 18, pretty surreal innings. I mean, they won with 8 balls to spare, right? I think. Um, but without that 40 of 18, which was, I mean, it's what the Big Show does. And you could see the three celebrating later as well, which we'll come to, which it's like a dagger to the heart. But I'm glad for RCB fans, man. Like Delhi fans, they've been long suffering, long abused. So you don't mind them going through, although the Mumbai crowd chanting RCB says a lot about the Mumbai fans more than anything else.
Right. On that happy note, let's take a quick break. We'll be right back to cover the last three matches of the IPL group stages and talk a little bit about how the fantasy league ended at the end of this phase. Stay tuned.
Hey, it's been another great week on the IVM Podcasts Network. On the Filter Coffee podcast, Karthik talks to Svetlana Nodial, programming director Asia Mubi, about how Mubi curates access to world cinema. Introducing our new show, Capgemini's Techipedia series with Sheeladitya M. In the first episode, we meet Nishit Srivastav, Chief Technology and Innovation Officer at Capgemini India. He tells us all about the metaverse's impact on different domains. On Paisa Vaisa, Anupam explores stock market trends with Prabhakar Tiwari, Chief Growth Officer at Angel One. On All Things Policy, the Takshashila folk discuss how the latest events in Sri Lanka impact India. On The Habit Coach, Ashton shares 3 steps to shake off a slump. And on Say No to Drama, Chetna explains how we can protect ourselves from energy suckers. We've got some exciting news for you. IVM Podcasts has just launched its merch, and our first line is out now. Head to the IVM Podcasts website and click on the Shop tab to check out our first collection of t-shirts. Do follow us on social media. We are IVM Podcasts on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. And remember, if you're enjoying this show or any of our other shows for that matter, please do tell a friend. Don't forget to rate us on any platforms you're listening on. You can also check us out on YouTube. We are also doing a small listener survey to better understand how you respond to our shows and advertising on the network. We would really appreciate if you could spare a few minutes to fill it. It helps us build better shows for you. And finally, we would like to thank our sponsors this week, SBI Life Insurance and Jupiter, a digital banking app.
Welcome back to the Edison Sledges Cricket Podcast. 3 games to go. Rajasthan takes on CSK. CSK battling for some pride, I guess. Not a lot of pride left, but they're doing it. I think they were, honestly, it came down to CSK versus Mumbai. If it really mattered, which one of them would be at the bottom of the points table. Yeah, I feel like I'm being a little harsh, but CSK comes out to bat first. The most bizarre kind of innings. In 57 balls of the innings, one man alone has made 93 runs. And in the remaining 63 balls, the rest of the team has made 57 runs. Like collectively, everybody other than Moeen Ali, I know some were up and down, but collectively the team other than Moeen Ali made 57 off 63 balls. Like for more than half the innings, the rest of the team batted at less than a run a ball. So they got to 150 despite a phenomenal 93 off 57. Unfortunate for Moeen not to get the century. Dhoni made 26 of 28, which again, I was sitting there watching this inning saying, great, if he can unleash, like he's done this millions of times, right? Being 25-ish at a run a ball and then unleash and finish at 45 off 31, which is a great knock. But when you don't unleash, it looks so painful that you got to 26 off 28 and left about an over to spare for Santner and Simarjit. But they came out and made 150. And again, interestingly, 2 things to highlight. Rajasthan Royals, Joss Butler failed again. Got out in the second over, I think it was. And Jaiswal looked outstanding. Made a great 50, but, very much an anchor role. And then, gosh, the guy who made a 50 against the Delhi Capitals came out this time not at number 3, but he came out at number 5 and makes a phenomenal 40-run cameo. 2 4s, 3 6s. And I'm talking about Ravi Ashwin, the batter, apparently.
Yeah. 5 test hundreds, but can finish in T20 cricket as well.
Unbelievable. Like, what is this? Has this been the year of Ravi Ashwin, the batter?
I mean, he's had a fantastic IPL, right? With the ball and with the bat, he's been given responsibility with the bat. They've respected his talent with the bat, which a lot of teams haven't done. I mean, he's I think come up the order when he was the captain of Punjab, but that's a little bit like I'm captain, I'm going to go up top and bat 3. Whereas he's not the skipper here.
Yeah.
And his batting has been backed, and you're seeing the fruits of that. When wickets have fallen early, they've sent him out because they know he can, well, at least in theory, he can play the moving ball, and he's got test runs. When they've needed someone to score quick runs, they've sent him out to hit over the top. Then they sent him in at 5 or 6 here to finish the innings off. So I mean, you talked about Kohli making a case for Team India. Ashwin was in the squad for the T20 World Cup last time, but after his performance there were questions as to whether the finger spinner was going to make a comeback, or whether Sundar was going to be the natural successor to him this year. Sundar's had his injury woes, and Ashwin's gone from strength to strength. So it's going to be a tough choice. It's going to be a tough choice. Though Sundar played a nice knock today, but his bowling has fallen off a little bit. Whereas Ashwin, that ball, I mean, one of the moments of the IPL, this IPL that will stick in my memory will be Ashwin to Andre Russell. What first ball just does him. I mean, I won't forget that. It's like the Steve Smith ball in the Melbourne Test match in the tour down under last time.
Definitely,
I mean, Ashwin,
one that will stay with you.
moments that just stick in your mind. Like you'll never forget that. Even if it's T20 cricket, it's supposed to be fleeting, right? But that's just brilliant magic.
So you're talking about his bowling, which was great and had moments. From a batting standpoint, I'm going to list a few names: Abhishek Sharma, Deepak Huda, Shubman Gill, Shreyas Iyer. Let's start with those, and then further down, Sanju Samson, Ruturaj Gaikwad, Nitish Rana. All of these guys had pretty good seasons. Ravi Ashwin's average to this point in the season was right on there with them. So he averaged 30.4. These guys were all between 30 and 32. And his strike rate was 146. Better than Abhishek, better than Huda, better than Gill, better than Shreyas. Like a comparable average with a better strike rate by 10 or 12 is unreal. When you look at the numbers, it's unbelievable. So I was probably the biggest critic of seeing Ashwin come into bat at 3. And it obviously seems to have worked. So credit where it's due, I guess. Right. We came down to our final 2 games. DJ, we have to do it for the sake of our listeners. Let's quickly go through the Mumbai versus Delhi.
Yeah. So one of the listeners actually said, "DJ Check, I want to see you crying on the podcast." This is not fun.
Our friends from the cricket podcast tweeted saying, "Somebody check on the boys from 1 to 1 and make sure they're okay." But it must-win game for Delhi. Nothing to lose for Mumbai, which can make a team scary and fearless because you have nothing to lose. But also there was a world where you saw Arjun Tendulkar warming up and helping set up a mark before the game. So a lot of people thought, okay, maybe Mumbai will come out with 6 changes, just try a lot of their young talent for the last game, see how they do leading into next year. They ended up coming in with 2 changes, pretty solid, like one of the strongest 11s they could have fielded, which again historically wasn't great. And gosh, let's get started. So David Warner gets out early in the 3rd over. Mitchell Marsh goes 2 balls later for a duck, first ball duck. And then you have a little bit of a partnership from Shaw and Pant, but again, batting at about a run a ball. Full credit to Rovman Powell, who came out and made a phenomenal 43. Got bowled by Jasprit Bumrah, who picked up 3 wickets. And Delhi ends at 159. Definitely not good enough on paper, but at one stage it looked without Powell like they were going to end anywhere between 115 and 130. And so at 159, all right, you have a little bit of hope. It's been defended before. It's potentially doable. Pitches were getting tougher to bat on. Mumbai lose Rohit at 25 for 1, lose Kishan at 76 for 2. And then Brevis comes in, plays a nice little cameo, but also still at about a run a ball. So at one point, they're sitting there needing 65 runs from 33 balls. So, not undoable, but getting into a tough spot, right? And Tilak Varma goes after that. And then you have Tim David come in and Ramandeep Singh on the other end. And just walk us through the carnage first of the unbelievable drop catch. Like, fielders shouldn't drop simple catches. Wicket keepers, who are also the captains, it is just unbelievable. I have no words. One is that. Second, Mitchell Marsh at this point had bowled 2 overs for 7. 2 overs not for 7. Didn't get a 3rd over. And then the review, the non-review, the whatever it was. DJ, just walk us through a couple of those things because it's too difficult for me.
Okay. So the carnage actually was started by Bumrah. Let's go back to the top. And I mean, let's give credit where it's due. Bumrah was absolutely brilliant. This is a team, Delhi Capitals is a team that likes playing quick bowling, and Bumrah bullied them at their own game. Like Mitch Marsh is an Australian all-rounder, right? Like he opens up batting in T20 cricket. He likes the ball coming onto the bat. He likes space. They put a fielder in its slip, bowled it up there, edge, gone. Prithvi Shaw opens the batting for India. He's got a test 100 on debut. Bullied with a bouncer, like clueless. Rovman Powell, just when he's threatening to absolutely take off like he's done in other games, bowled with a pitch perfect Yorker. So that, let's give credit where that is due, right? So let's do that. And of course, Rohit's captaincy was on point as well. But then the second half of the game, I genuinely think Delhi Capitals lost that game rather than Mumbai Indians actually going ahead and winning that. So let's start off. Rohit, that spell by Khalil to Rohit was,
Gosh, the
yeah,
2 overs were
com-
unplayable.
yeah, completely unbelievable, just brilliant. And Rohit, you don't see Rohit scoring 2 of 13 often, right? It's not something he does. But then the catch that goes down on Devil Brevis and Baby AB, he just started taking flight. Kuldeep has just got a wicket in that over. The ball goes up in the air. You could have had 2 wickets in the over, and it's a simple catch. I mean, it's gone up high, right? But like Rishabh Pant is the Indian wicketkeeper. Fine, mistakes happen. And it wasn't even like it was swirling or he missed it or he misjudged it or he overran it. He was there. It just popped out of his gloves. So
With
it was,
gloves, though,
yeah,
it feels like it's much less
yeah,
forgivable for
yeah.
errors with gloves. But anyway,
Yeah.
keep going.
And so this is the Rishabh Pant show. And yesterday, while we were sitting there watching that game, the thing that I thought of was our preview of IPL 2022. And when we came to the Delhi Capitals, Varun Garg was like, this team is Rishabh Pant. Either he's hot or he's cold. You've got to take the good with the bad. And yesterday it was as good as the Gava has been, as good as his hundreds have been in Test cricket, as good as some of his innings have been in T20 cricket. Yesterday, our boy Rishabh had a horrific day, and you just sat there pulling your hair out. It wasn't even he played a bad shot and got out. Or it, we're used to that. Yesterday was tactical blunder after tactical blunder. You mentioned the Mitch Marsh bowling spell, but right, you've got to put. So the only person, and I was talking earlier, like, what is this Mumbai Indians lineup? You've got nothing to come. Brevis went pretty soon after that, to be honest. Like Brevis chopped onto Aman Shadi. Shadi got that wicket. Next ball, right? Next ball, there's like 25 balls to go in the game. Shadi trundles in, bowls one outside off stump. David props forward. Ball goes to the keeper. Keeper goes up. You've got 24 balls left. Are you going to get 3 decisions wrong in that time? The umpire doesn't give it out. What have you got to lose at that point? This is the only man who can take the game away from you. Ramandeep is not going to score those runs. Tilak Verma is a good batter, but he's not going to score those runs. I don't know. Bumrah was batting like 7 or 8 in the last game. So they don't have any batting. What have you got to lose at that point?
So obviously, Rishabh looked for the moment like he thought there was an edge, and then he didn't take the review.
So
Can
this
I
is
ask you?
yeah,
Ask you
go
about
on.
the comment he made later, though, where he said we were standing around in the circle, and he basically was pushing the blame off,
No.
saying,
So
right?
I refuse to accept that.
Yeah.
That is the moment where an MS Dhoni, and he had to come into it. That is the moment where he says, I know I'm going to back myself. He makes the calculation in his head
Yeah,
in that
saying
split second,
exactly what he
saying,
said.
what am
What
I
do we
going
have
to
to lose?
lose?
I got 30 balls left. Am I really gonna
So
use up
that
2
is the
balls?
difference between an MS Dhoni and a Rishabh Pant. MS Dhoni is calculated in a World Cup knockout match that I'm going to run to the stumps and break the stumps and beat the
Yeah.
non-striker with my
Yeah.
ball in my hand. And Rishabh Pant has 15 seconds to make that calculation, and he's not got to the correct result. Which, I mean, I'm sitting here and I'm just boiling. I'm like, how can you get that wrong? And okay, it's been a long tournament. You play a lot of cricket. There's a lot to be said. But why is nobody else stepped in? Why is David Warner not gone in and said, what? I mean,
Yeah.
why is
So,
no one else doing that?
but sorry, but at that point, David Warner feels at the boundary for the most part
Yeah,
at
fair.
that stage, right?
Fair.
So Rishabh is not only keeper, who
Yeah.
is the main person who should be making the decision for a
Yeah.
caught behind, but he's
Yeah.
also captain. So
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, and he should the blame, I have to say, I'm very sorry to say this, and it's wrong almost to blame one person for a collective failure, which it was. Like you lose as a team. But a large part of that loss, and I'm not saying maybe Ramandeep would have played the game of his the innings of his life. Maybe he could have pulled the Rinku Singh 40 or 15 and won the game. But to give your team the best chance, you have to be able to, and you have that's gut instinct. And
Yeah.
at that moment, Pant just didn't have it, and you could see Ponting absolutely fuming,
Yeah.
sitting there and it left everybody else like that. And of course, he's going to give Pant 3+. Like, he's not done it on purpose, but
Yeah, of
some
course.
people have it, and I'm afraid to say this may have cost him his India captaincy. It may have, this one moment. And
That's interesting.
previously, he's criticized the umpires for missing things. Again, in this case, they missed a decision, but that's what you have the review system for, right?
Yeah.
You wanted the review in that other game where there was a no ball that you thought was above waist height. You had a review, you had
Yeah.
2 reviews, and you did not use it. So if we didn't have the review system, all the blame would have gone on the umpire. Oh my God, they didn't give it out. Tim David then won the game from there. What is the review system there for? If you think it's out,
Review it.
review it. Even if you don't think it's out, review it tactically. You saw that horrific review he made after that when the ball pitched
Yeah.
7 feet outside leg stump and he
Yeah.
appealed for the LBW. And that's just, I mean, the moment was gone, right? And
Yeah.
with that, a playoff spot was gone. But truth be told, the Delhi Capitals, again, it's not Delhi Capitals podcast, so we're not spending that much time on it. But uh, they haven't been good enough all season. They've just
No,
been
didn't deserve it.
inconsistent. They've been
Honestly,
up and down. Yeah.
fifth is generous.
Yeah, it
So
hasn't been good enough. There've been individual brilliance, and I'm sure they'll address it in good time. And let's hope Pant learns from this. Let's hope he learns from this, not only for DC but for India as well.
So Tim David goes on to make 34 of 11. Khalil has 5 to defend, and the last over ball's a no ball first ball. So then you have 4 to defend off 6, and it's a free hit, and they finish it off. Just even with 5 to defend, the guy who bowled the unbelievable spell to Rohit just didn't show up. And so the Delhi Capitals didn't make it through, leaving us with one game of the season. DJ, we've gone a little long. I know it's late for you, so we'll wrap this one quickly because it was a dead rubber. I think mathematically, if Punjab had won in chased down the 160 in like 11 overs or something, then they would have ended 5th, which doesn't change anything for qualification, but is a better sign, right? To finish 5th ahead of Delhi instead of the 6th where they ended up. But Hyderabad comes out, makes 157. I mean, Kane Williamson doesn't even play. He's obviously gone. I think he's gone back to New Zealand. But Abhishek Sharma makes 43. They get to 157. Just lots of little cameos. 3 for 40 by Nathan Ellis. 3 for 26 by Harpreet Brar, who looked really good. No wickets this game, but congratulations to Arshdeep Singh for getting a Team India call-up. He's just been phenomenal all season, all of last season as well. And then, yeah, Punjab Kings, familiar story. Shikhar bats at just over a run a ball, consolidates. Bairstow makes some runs. And then Liam Livingstone came and just went ballistic, hit 5 sixes, made 49 off 22 balls. Jitesh Sharma hit a 6 and a couple boundaries, made 19 off just 7. And they finished it off with 5 overs to spare. It was interesting that they did promote Shahrukh to 3 in a match which, again, nothing much to lose, but potential to try to get to 5th by winning quickly. They promoted him up the order. So Punjab will leave this season feeling like they missed a couple of easy opportunities, left some easy chances on the table. But yeah, dead rubber, last game of the season, and Hyderabad couldn't pull it off.
Yeah, it was telling, actually, wasn't it, that they sent Shah Rukh up, but none of us actually picked the Punjab Kings, despite having a fantastic squad on paper to actually make the qualifiers. And one of the things that stood out for me in this game was Mayank getting hit in the ribs by Umran Malik. That looked extremely painful. And as you said, Arshdeep and Umran both playing a game immediately after the India call-ups. Congratulations to DK to making it back as well. I mean, it's great to see actual performance being recognized and rewarded as well, right? I mean, that's super. Plus, I mean, Puji is back in the test squad for the Edgbaston test match later in the summer. So I'm sure we'll talk about all of this in much more detail. But yeah, dead rubber. Livingston started off like he wanted to finish in about 10 balls, but then Jitesh Sharma as well. That guy can bat.
So, yeah, by the time we're together next, the final should be done. And we will know who is the winner of IPL 2022. What we can tell you is the bottom 4 teams this year are all former champions. Mumbai, Chennai, CSK, and KKR starting from the bottom. From the top, Gujarat Lucknow, of course, new franchises. RCB famously have never won. And the Rajasthan Royals, I
So
think they only won in
only one
2008.
trophy shared by the 4 teams. There's only one
It,
trophy amongst those 4 teams. Yeah.
but the RR trophy also was '08 with a
Oh wait, yeah.
completely different side, right? It
Yes.
was Shane Watson,
There'll
Shane
be
Warne.
some fans pretty happy with the result next Sunday. But what did you make of two things I wanted to ask? One, Kohli's tweet thanking Mumbai for taking them to Kolkata. One, and two, about the Mumbai fans chanting RCB. Um, what do you make of those two things? Because I
Yeah,
think the second one really annoyed me. I'm just like, dude, you guys were not even in it, so why don't you just leave us alone?
I mean, what's interesting. So let's be clear. In 2018, the
Yeah,
Delhi team was, I think, eighth, like bottom of the table,
yeah.
and had it,
The
and not and
Daredevils back
the
then.
Delhi Daredevils before the
Yeah.
right before the name change actually beat Mumbai in a match inconsequential for Delhi, but the victory ended up knocking Mumbai out of the playoffs. And so this is exactly the reverse situation, right? So
Yeah.
I don't hold anything against Mumbai. Obviously, it would have been great if they sent out a B team and Delhi just rolled them over. But it's funny for me. Back to your question on the tweet, right? Faf was very clear. He said, like the RCB social media army and everybody went all in behind Mumbai. RCB's logo on Twitter changed to blue. For those who didn't notice it, they were just because it was just they needed Mumbai to win to qualify, and so they were celebrating. Faf Maxwell and Kohli, of course, was celebrating. I mean, it's funny how when Team India comes to the picture, it's very different. But in this situation, Virat and Rohit had all the love, even though Rohit played, pardon my language, like crap. His team won, and that secured Virat's team the
So
qualification.
Rohit
Right?
tried
So
his best not
Rohit tried his
not
best to
send him.
avoid. Great, you just changed the message. Rohit tried everything he could to not let Virat qualify,
2 of 13. Yeah.
but Pant did his India captain or former India captain a bigger favor
Yeah.
and didn't review and dropped a catch, and maybe Pant deliberately. You never know what's going on behind the scenes.
No, you never know. It makes you wonder what's going
Makes
on
you
behind
wonder
the
what's
scenes.
going on behind the scenes.
No, these are all jokes. Please, we're not
Yes,
alluding to any kind of shady business. These are
we
all
are not.
jokes
We are not.
on Varun's KKR fan friends.
We are just bitter Delhi fans who are struggling a little bit today. But
Extremely bitter. Extremely. I mean, what's the point of the rest of the IPL, right? Without Delhi in it. We're not used to
DJ,
it. It's been 3 years.
and to answer your second question, I think Mumbai fans chanting RCB, I think you just need something to look forward to, right? Like I feel for Mumbai fans. Delhi has been those fans. We've been those fans many, many, many years, right? Like, so
Yeah, but we're not going to chant another team's
I
name just
know,
for that.
but I mean, like
Anyway.
every stadium fan has chanted MSD when he walks in, regardless of whether he's the awake. Like
Yeah,
he will
but
be
that's
playing in
different.
Delhi.
That's
No, I
different.
know, but I mean, anyway,
That's like
they,
chanting MSD when Pant is keeping badly. That's what happened.
I don't think it's quite the same. But anyway, we can get into this debate. But
Anyway.
DJ, it's been a whirlwind, man. 70 games over the last 6-7 weeks or so. It's been a lot of coverage, a lot to go through. By the time we meet next, it's only going to be 4 playoff games, which will be a little underwhelming to cover. So thank you for reliving this week with me. Congratulations also are in order for you. I mean, we still got a little bit of time, but of the three of us, you are currently leading in the
I
fantasy
haven't
league.
even made change. I had 4 changes left at the end of the league stage.
All right, you don't have to rub it in. You
Okay.
are
Cool.
sitting in 8th, though, in our Edison's
Not
Legends
bad.
fan league. I
Not
am
bad.
a little further down in 27th, and Varun is right at my heels in 33rd. So, actually, interestingly, I think the last game of the season, Varun had potentially held his booster for, I don't know, or he used it sometime in the final week. And fortunately, I was still able to get the better of him, and
Nice.
it came out on top. But we still have the 4 games to go, so you never know what'll happen. I will give credit to our leaders right now. So, in first place is Bodacious Bursting Geezers. Just great names. Second place, who's been consistent, is Wicket Sensation. And then in third place is the team whose name I won't say. Fourth place, Pocket Dynamites. And fifth place, Fountainhead. So congratulations to all of you for leading the Edges and Sledges fan league at this point. It'll be interesting to see if there can be some movement in the table in the final group stages. But the team in the lead, the Bodacious Bursting Geezers, is 700 points clear. So it seems unlikely that they
Ooh.
will actually have a
Do
reasonable
you get
shot.
any boosters in the playoff stage?
I'm unclear about that, but we will figure it out before Tuesday.
Nice. Nice.
DJ, final question. Who's going to win this year's IPL? Gujarat, Rajasthan, who get 2 shots at making the final, or Lucknow and RCB, who only get 1 in the eliminator?
This is hard. So you just have to pick one, right? Like, I actually want to say that I'm gonna go with Lucknow Super Giants.
Okay, so for the first, I guess they were third on the table. So interesting. You
Yeah.
didn't back the Gujarat Titans.
Yeah.
I'm going to be boring and say actually I don't think we will have a new winner. I
You're
think
gonna go with the Rajasthan
I think
Royals.
the Rajasthan Royals have
I mean,
just
that's a logical choice, right? That's a
Yeah,
logical choice. But see,
get used to it.
although I love the RCB,
Yeah,
I kind of like having them in company. RCB fans and Delhi Capitals fans
I guess that's fair.
bond over
Like,
misery, so I like that. The
yeah,
other two
that's
are
fair.
new. So this is my process of elimination. RR won. The other two are new. Rahul versus Hardik. I think Rahul's going to be future India captain, so I think it's good for him to win the IPL. That is my thought process.
Okay, that's fair. You're still
Yeah.
going with who you want to win versus who you think will
No,
win.
no,
So,
yeah, I'm going very much with who I want to win. This isn't. I mean, at this point, anyone can win. Genuinely,
I think
it's just
if I had to pick based on who I want, I think just the joy of seeing Virat being able to hold the trophy, even though he's not skipper
yeah.
this year, would be worth it. So, right, that brings us to a wrap. DJ, I know it's late for you. Go get some sleep. For our listeners, thank you as always for listening. If you're watching this on YouTube, hit that subscribe button. At One Tip One Hand on all the socials, or contact at onetiponehand.com. You can email us there. We're looking forward to it. It'll be a big week without the Delhi Capitals, but it'll still be a good week of playoff cricket. And we will see you next week once we have an IPL winner and start talking about India, South Africa, because cricket never sleeps.
Plus, there's also the women's T20 challenge, right? That's another
That's
thing to
right.
look forward to
That's
on the
right.
game.
I haven't even
There's
been
no
keeping up
men's
with
game, so that's going to be
so.
great fun.
Honestly,
Yeah.
I was at the PGA Championship this last week. I was watching on Friday. I watched that live, and then French Open tennis starts. So never a dull moment. There's always sports on. But thanks you all for tuning in, and we'll see you next week.